President Tinubu has placed a temporary ban on all public-funded foreign trips for all federal government officials with effect from the 1st of April 2024. The suspension was contained in a circular dated March 12, 2024 from the State House and addressed to the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. George Okume, for onward circulation to all the ministries, departments, and agencies. The presidential directive came over 3 weeks after the Federal Executive Council approved the full implementation of the 12-year-old Steve Oronsaye report recommended a merger, scrapping of government agencies and commission as a move to cut cost of governance in the country. Now, where are we at? You saw the inflation, new inflation rate that was released. It showed that from December last year, all hell was let loose. And the economy that was staggering looks so much that it's suffering from some kind of meningitis, have incurred some more diseases, and in fact, it's finding it difficult to keep itself on its feet. Now, food inflation is on the rise. All the major economic indices are southwards. So where do we go from here? So I bring for you, Nigerians, the medical doctor of economics, Mr. Bismarck Rewane. He joins us virtually from Lagos. Thank you so much, Mr. Rewane, and thank you indeed for some of the research that you are bringing to bear tonight on the program. Give us a sense. Where are we at today? The inflation rates were released by the MBS last week, and they're not good figures, anything to write home about.
Yes, the question is Nigeria economy on the mend, or is it at the bend? Quite frankly, the Nigerian economy is limping and gasping at the same time. But let us break it down. So in the past 2 months or 3 weeks, we've seen the Naira appreciate by about 28%, all the way from 1915, all the way to 1475 today. So that's good news. Nigeria has announced that the backlog of forward contract agreements on the foreign exchange market have been cleared to the airlines, and authentic claims have been cleared. Second piece of good news. The third piece of good news is that Nigeria is to refinance its existing bond obligations, right? That's also moving in the right direction, but very, very slowly. We are dealing with a populace that are anxious, angry, hungry, and very, very, very restive. So we have to take that into consideration. Nigeria's inflation is at 31.7, but food inflation is above 37% or 38%. And that is if you believe the numbers. Because when you take a synthetic basket, you will find that actually things are really difficult. And we've got to a point where people are eating less in quantity and eating inferior quality of food, thereby increasing to a large extent actually reducing their life expectancy and increasing their vulnerability to all sorts of shocks. Secondly, and piece of good news is that Nigeria has opened its borders with Niger and some other countries so that food can come in and food can go out at the same time. So those are the critical things. But we need to look at inflation in its real sense. And you can see from the slides that the Naira has appreciated all the way from 1915 to 1475.
Yeah, I was going to take you back to the figure, the slide on the Naira, the state of the Naira. Is this particular progression that we've seen the good news that the Naira has brought us in terms of how it has appreciated against the dollar in the last few days? Is this something that is concrete or manually regularized? Is this something that could be sustained?
Well, you see, the truth is that it's sustainable as long as you do a number of things, and I was going to come to that. One is that interest rates have been increased, therefore the propensity to save has increased and the propensity to consume has actually reduced. People are consuming less and actually saving more if they are saving. The government itself is consuming less and actually saving more. You heard that there's a ban on travel. For the optics of it, at the same time, there's a lot of waste in government. There's a lot of leakages in government. There's a lot of mismanagement of things. So, but these are early days. But the fact that you have moved from 1915 to 1475, and Goldman Sachs Standard Chart has said that it will get to 1200. Our own analysis shows that it could even do better as long as you do those things. One, you refinance your existing debt, you take care of the ways and means, and you do not need this kind of distractions like what's happening in the Delta state. The governor was just talking about it. Those kind of conflicts and misunderstandings, right, and insurgency, which will disrupt the oil pipelines and reduce our oil cash flow, is what we don't need at all. We need this as much as we need a bullet in our heads. So we need to do something about that. And that's why I'm saying that, to say that because the Naira is appreciated, and therefore it's going to be sustainable. It's only sustainable to the extent that you bring all the other factors. So you have a cocktail of measures, and that you must be serious and credible about it. I must say that there have been at least 17 or so circulars from the central bank, all of them moving in the right direction. So we think the Naira will exceed and will continue to go in that direction. But there's a lot of work to be done, definitely so.
Yeah, you talked about the inflation rate.
Yes.
Give us a sense of what this means. This is not a good news, it's a doom and gloom as far as the projection is concerned. And if this continues, it means only one thing, right? We do not want the England situation to happen to our economy.
Now, let me tell you, last time we spoke, we took 6 commodities. And when we looked at those 6 commodities, all of them were showing signs of red, danger, significant deterioration. But when we looked at those things today, this afternoon, you will see that a bag of rice, which was 95,000 at end of February, and that's it there, has come down to 88,000. Is that good news? 88,000 is a really expensive rice, which was 70,000 in December. For 88,000, we saw that green line. A loaf of bread has gone from 1,500 to 1,600. It has increased. Why? Because of the price of diesel, because of the price of wheat, and also because of the price of sugar. Then yam tubers, we are in interseason. The yam tuber in February was 7,500. It's gone to 8,000. Planting season. And don't forget, there's a confluence of Ramadan and Easter coming together. Then we went to beans. That was the one that was flat. Beans was 80,000 in February, and it remains 80,000 this afternoon at Onyibo Market. Pepper, we've seen some strange happenings. In February, pepper was 85,000 naira a bag. Today, this afternoon, it is 120,000 as well. Some good news here, eggs. Eggs were 4,500 in February. It's now down to 4,000. Obviously, people are struggling there. But this is a picture. It was all 6 items all red. Now we have 2 in green, marginal green, 1 flat, and 3 in red. This is also bad. This is bad news because people have actually run out of money to buy these goods. And you talk about inflation, you have the minimum wage, the negotiation is going to take place soon. If you don't take care of that professionally and in good, with sound economists to manage this process, that could be what I can call a poison chalice for the Nigerian economy.
Oh, interesting. So good news as far as food is concerned, because that is very important. Although some of our friends are fasting, but yeah, they need to break their fast in the evening. That doesn't mean that the food prices should go off the roof, but they're actually getting out of the roof then. But then you look at it, that this good news needs to be sustained. And for those of us who love to eat our yam, either as pounded yam or fried yam or whichever form, we still need that price of yam to come down, the pepper to come down, bread to come down also, same way we've seen rice coming down and eggs coming down. But how can we curb the rising rate of inflation, Mr. Rewane? What is the solution?
Firstly, I think that there's a transitory inflation and there's a structural inflation. So when you see core inflation increasing, which we are seeing now, it means the structural problems are there. The transitory problems, right, and the transient inflationary factors can be solved one way. One, that is import some food, commodities, that's rice, rice, sugar, and some other, import them short term and use it and dump it in the market, and that will bring price down. Follow that, obviously, with the appreciating exchange rate. So those who have brought in goods at the high exchange rate will have to now buy dollars at the low exchange rate and average it out, and that will happen. But we need to have forex inflows. Where are the forex inflows going to come from? For the first time in the history of this country, cocoa price is above $8,000 a ton. And we are expected to do 250,000. So that means instead of having $600 million this year, we could, with God willing, that we could end up with about $2.3 billion. We have LNG, and then we've had oil today, yesterday going as high as $87 a barrel. But the oil that we have is either being stolen, being expired, or something like that. So there's a lot of housekeeping that needs to be done to make sure that, one, the leakages reduce.
But Mr. Sorry, apologies, Mr. Rewane, to button. We're seeing a trend under the Emefiele CBN. Now, in the Cardoso era, one of the criticisms of those who say, look, CBN does not have any business in some of the things that he did under Emefiele, the rice issue, the this or that. But we're seeing also the CBN cutting the Ministry of Agriculture. Is that the right way to go, though?
No, the central bank, if I read it right, central bank donated its fertilizers or something they had to the agencies that deal with it. I think the primary responsibility of the central bank is to maintain price stability, and that's what is being said. The rice pyramids of the past, to a large extent, it was a hoax, actually. There was no rice in them and all that. And so let's forget that period in the history of monetary policy in Nigeria as one that was a bad dream. It was a dream turned into a nightmare. So, but where we are now is that we need to go about it systematically. That is, using interest rate cuts, using the packaging of the ways and means, securitizing of those debts, allowing interest rates rise to a point where at least it does not discourage production, but at the same time it encourages savings. Those are the things that happen. But one is that there's need for new money. New money is a function of confidence. Confidence is a function of consistency in policy. These are the things that I think the administration has to come to terms with. We have a trust deficit in this country as policymakers. When we say one thing today, the next day we change it. The next day there's no consistency. So the reality and the honest truth is that when people begin to see consistency, they stop panicking. When they stop panicking, they buy less in quantity, but over a longer period. So you will now begin to see the price of those commodities, even like diesel. Diesel is now down to 1,450. It went as high as 1,700 about 2 months ago. One, because first of all, people don't have money to buy this thing, and secondly, people are now becoming more efficient and rational in their consumer behavior.
Well, I mean, give me an understanding of you are saying that if there is an increase in crude oil production capacity in Nigeria, I know we're oscillating between 1,100,000, 1,200,000 barrel per day, which is some good news since this government came into office. But then we need to do more to even be able to meet up with our quota. But again, you asked the question whether or not the Dangote production will help our cause in any way. And there are those other little and smaller refineries and the modular ones who are producing on Nigerian soil. Are they able to help? Hearing also Port Harcourt, Kaduna, those Warwick refineries that are being fixed, they say they will come on stream at some point in the next few months. What good news could come out of those?
No, I think that the Dangote refinery has the capacity of producing products for the Nigerian market consistently and quality. The thing is that it's not a silver bullet that is going to solve our problems. Every time you must differentiate between the downstream activities, which is about refining and all the other things are midstream, and the upstream activity, which is about exploration and production. Where we are producing oil are in the deep water and the deep offshore and the offshore and the deep water assets. In those assets, we have the production sharing contracts, where the Nigerian government revenue take from those are much lower. The places that we have the joint ventures, where our own stake is high as much as 60% with the operators, those are the areas where the above the ground risk, like what happened in Okwama, is destroying and disrupting our activity. As long as those activities continue to take place, as long as the people in the oil-producing part of the Niger Delta, because there's a general misconception that everywhere in the Niger Delta is oil prolific. No, there are areas within the oil-producing areas that are marginalized. And if you go there, you saw what happened. You would see that those guys have nothing to look up to. If you publish the 20 Nigerian richest men, none of them will come from that area, while the crude oil comes from there. So there's the environmental degradation, there's resource control, there's optimization of the use of resources, there's mismanagement, there's fraud. All of these things happen until you address them. And first of all, allow these guys who want to divest from the land and swamp and empower them to come in and reinvest some serious dollars in the offshore. There's a confluence between political misunderstanding and economic degradation. I think that has to be addressed.
Yeah, I still have one or two slides for us to go, but I still have just about 2 minutes to go. So,
Yes.
Mr. Rewane, you are one of those eggheads and those billionaires who sat with the president, and you had a conversation. And you were in Abuja, and I saw you in those pictures. Were you able to tell the president how ailing the economy was?
Yes.
What is the prospect of your group in advising the president and the government of the day?
I think, quite frankly, the meeting was useful and productive in the sense that it was a full and frank meeting. There was no husband. And for those who do not have special interests, I think we made it very clear that there's this problem, both structural, transitory, and that there's a lot of work to be done in terms of restoring the credibility of government in Nigeria. Nobody believes anything government says. So I think it was supposed to be a short meeting, but it lasted much longer. And there was no asymmetric information. Everything was put there. People had their motives for being at that meeting. But quite frankly, my understanding that the president got a lot of information, balanced information, truthful information, and it depends on what you do with it. But ever since that meeting, in all fairness, I've seen some baby steps moving in the right direction in terms of getting things, making things better. But what I must tell you is that this is a long journey. This is a long journey, and we must fasten our seatbelts for the bumpy days ahead.
Wow.
Nobody should deceive you that we are going to have a silver bullet here. It's not going to happen.
Wow.
If that's what you're believing, then you have a long day ahead of you.
We need to go, Mr. Rewane, but those solutions that you have preferred here, in 60 seconds, can we be able to go through them, please?
Yes. First of all, we have no choice. Economic failure in Nigeria will lead to political calamity. It cannot happen. So we have no choice. Everybody has to come together and lift this thing. Secondly, I think that because the capacity has to be found, because there are a lot of people in government, but not everybody in government has capacity, because that is the whole thing. So it's the president's job to look for the people with the capacity and sincerity at the same time to do what is required. But I'm optimistic that sooner or later we'll get there, but it's not going to be an easy ride. Like I said, you better fasten your seatbelt because the road ahead is very bumpy.
We're saying the MPC, you're looking ahead of the next MPC, they must be able to make tough decisions. You are making a projection there, isn't it?
Yes. I think that the MPC will do what it has to do. On Tuesday, I think we'll be seeing something like 150 basis point increase just to ensure that these things get sustainable. So you will see lending rates up, you see the policy rate up, and then also there'll be recapitalization. There are all sorts of measures to ensure that the banking system itself does not go into weakness. I think the government of Central Bank is quite capable of, and he can see that is tough, so he knows what to do. So basically, we are looking forward to consistency in policy, and that the exchange rate continues to appreciate, and that should give some, at least, temporary comfort to Nigerians.
All right. Now, thank you so much, Mr. Rewane. You've told us the truth as Nigerians that no silver bullet. It's going to be a long, tough, painful ride. So Nigerians should brace up. No politicians who come and put the icing. We know what we are up against, and we know what we have on our hands. Thank you for telling us the truth about the state of the economy and how everybody needs to tighten their belt. But we hope and pray for our country, and we believe that better days are ahead. Thank you so much. Ms. Rewane is the CEO of Financial Derivatives and Economics. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight.
Thank you very much for having me.
I appreciate it.